Today, an FDA approval for severe hepatic veno-occlusive disease, 2 promising studies in multiple myeloma, a new drug application for carcinoid syndrome, disappointing results in ovarian cancer and non-small cell lung cancer trials, and advancements in the European regulatory landscape. Welcome to Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus. The FDA has approved defibrotide sodium as a treatment for severe hepatic veno-occlusive disease with associated kidney or lung abnormalities following hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. The approval was based on data from a collection of 3 studies and followed a priority review by the FDA that had been granted after rolling submission that was allowed under a fast-track designation. Across the single-arm trials, 2 of which were prospective and 1 that was an expanded access study, 38% to 45% of patients were alive at 100 days following HSCT. The current 100-day survival rates with best supportive care following HSCT for patients with severe hepatic VOD are 21% to 31%. Prior to the approval, defibrotide received an orphan drug designation to prevent VOD in May 2003. Defibrotide was also approved by the European Medicines Agency in 2013 under exceptional circumstances for severe hepatic VOD. Severe hepatic VOD occurs in approximately 2% of patients treated with HSCT and has an 84% mortality rate. In the United States, the therapy is expected to cost $156,000. In multiple myeloma, a Phase 3 study showed that adding daratumumab to standard bortezomib and dexamethasone improved progression-free survival in patients with relapsed refractory disease. The open-label randomized CASTOR trial met its primary endpoint, demonstrating a significant delay in disease progression with the addition of daratumumab. Following an independent panel's recommendation, the study was halted and patients in the bortezomib and dexamethasone alone arm were able to cross over at progression to receive daratumumab. Full results are being prepared for publication and will be presented at an upcoming meeting. Janssen, which co-develops daratumumab with Genmab, plans to discuss the potential to file for regulatory approval for a new or broader indication for daratumumab with the FDA. The CD38 targeted monoclonal antibody was approved by the FDA in November 2015 as a single agent for patients with myeloma following at least 3 prior therapies. The addition of plitidepsin to dexamethasone was found to reduce the risk of disease progression by 35% versus dexamethasone alone in patients with relapsed refractory multiple myeloma. In the Phase 3 ADMIRE trial, the progression-free survival benefit observed with the combination met the trial's primary endpoint of a statistically significant improvement. Phase 2 results showed that the overall response rate was 13% with plitidepsin monotherapy and 22% with the combination. Both regimens were found to be well tolerated. Final results will be presented at an upcoming meeting. Plitidepsin already has an orphan drug designation from the FDA and the European Medicines Agency. A new drug application has been submitted to the FDA for telotrestat epitrate as a potential treatment for carcinoid syndrome in patients with metastatic neuroendocrine tumors. Lexicon Pharmaceuticals, the drug's developer, said that the application is based on data from 2 Phase 3 trials. Both studies demonstrated significant reductions in the frequency of daily bowel movements with telotrestat epitrate versus placebo. In the first study, TELESTAR, telotrestat epitrate reduced daily bowel movements by up to 35%. In the second study, TELECAST, there was also a significant reduction in bowel movements, but exact data were not yet released. The FDA will review the NDA within 60 days of submission, at which point the agency will assign a review deadline under the Prescription Drug User Fee Act. Lexicon requested a priority review for the NDA, which would provide a 6-month deadline if the designation is granted. In ovarian cancer, binimetinib failed to improve progression-free survival compared with physician's choice of chemotherapy for patients with low-grade serous ovarian cancer. Early findings from the Phase 3 MILO study show that the hazard ratio for progression-free survival had crossed a predefined futility boundary. Results from the study, which has now been discontinued, were not expected until 2017. Patients who were in the binimetinib arm will be allowed to cross over to receive chemotherapy. The physician's choice of chemotherapy included liposomal doxorubicin, paclitaxel, and topotecan. In non-small cell lung cancer, treatment with gefitinib failed to show non-inferiority compared with erlotinib for patients with pretreated disease. According to a phase 3 study, the median progression-free survival in patients with EGFR mutant adenocarcinoma who received gefitinib was 8.3 months versus 10 months with erlotinib. For patients with EGFR alterations, the median OS was 26.5 months with gefitinib versus 31.4 months with erlotinib. The overall response rate was 58.9% versus 55% for gefitinib and erlotinib, respectively. Grade 3 rash was more common with erlotinib versus gefitinib, while liver enzymes were more frequently elevated with gefitinib over erlotinib. In Europe, the Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use gave a positive opinion to single-agent daratumumab for the treatment of patients with relapsed/refractory multiple myeloma who were previously treated with a proteasome inhibitor and an immunomodulatory agent. The opinion was primarily based on data from the Phase 2 Sirius MMY 2002 study, which also led to the FDA approval last year. The CHMP also granted a positive assessment to the combination of ipilimumab and nivolumab for advanced melanoma. This was based on the collection of data from the CheckMate 069 and 067 studies and a Phase 1b trial. In the studies, the combination significantly improved overall response rate and progression-free survival versus monotherapy with ipilimumab for patients with advanced melanoma. In the CHMP opinion, the combination also improved PFS versus single-agent nivolumab, but only in patients with low tumor expression of PD-L1. Additionally, the EMA validated an application for use of nivolumab for previously treated patients with classical Hodgkin lymphoma. This officially begins the centralized review process. The EMA will be evaluating nivolumab primarily based on data from the Phase 2 CheckMate 205 trial, which is evaluating nivolumab in both newly diagnosed and previously treated patients with CHL. Results from the study will likely be presented at a scientific meeting later this year. That's all for today. Thank you for watching Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus.